Okay, today we're going to be talking about, well, we've been talking about the five kingdoms. We talked already about the Monitoring Kingdom, which is like the bacteria and the cyanobacteria. We talked about how they have three different shapes, the cocci, the spirili, and the bacilli. That's spherical, spiral, and rod-shaped. We've also talked about the Protist Kingdom, and we looked at pond water, or perhaps you will look at pond water if you have not yet. We're going to then today talk about the fungi kingdom, and in the future, starting next week, we'll talk about the plant kingdom, and we'll end the year on the animal kingdom. But today, let's talk about the fungi kingdom. This includes the mushrooms, and just some interesting facts. There's what's called the humongous fungus in Oregon, and that is one big fungus this guy is holding. It's as big as his torso. Um, Also, some mushrooms can live really long time. This is the honey mushroom, and it has lived for, they think, this one maybe 2,400 years old. Most of the fungi are multicellular. Um, Even though they might look similar to plants because they grow in the ground, they are not plants. They do not have chlorophyll. They do not have chloroplasts. They do not do photosynthesis. They need to acquire their food as any other heterotroph. They are not a plant. Um, some, though, are unicellular, like these yeast. This is what you use to make your bread rise. This is just a microscope view, magnified, of yeast. They do not have cell walls. I'm sorry, they do have cell walls, but they're not like the plants. Plant cell walls are made of cellulose, but fungi have cell walls made of what we call chitin. It's a very strong material. You'll find it later in insects, actually, will use chitin in their shells and their exoskeletons. So fungi, their cell walls, and this is a microscopic view of several cells of fungi, and you can see that it's very durable, filament, stringy stuff. This is the chitin cell walls. The structure of fungi is very unique. The entire body is made of what we call hyphae, which are these strands, these strings of cells that just string all the way through the body. It's called hyphae. That's really what it's made up of, these long strings and strands of hyphae. And then this whole part above ground is considered the fruiting body. Some of this is for reproduction, like the top part here, but all of it is called and considered the fruiting body. And that's the part of the mushroom that you eat. If you're eating mushrooms, you're eating this fruiting body, this whole part right here. So you have the hyphae, which are the uh, stringy things that run the whole length of the mushroom, and then you have the fruiting body, which is the entire thing above ground. Underground, what seem to be roots, though they are not actually roots, they anchor the mushroom to the ground, um, but really these are called mycelium. We call them mycelium. So we have mycelium, that's an important term for the root-like structures underneath the ground. If you've heard of a fairy ring of mushrooms, that's because several of them are all sharing the same mycelium under the ground in a big ring. So we have the three parts, the hyphae, which are these strings that run through the whole thing, the fruiting body, which is everything above ground, and the mycelium, which are the root-like structures underneath. Some fungi feed on dead things. Some fungi are parasitic. That means they hurt the host. Some are even mutualistic, which means they um, help in both ways. The fungi gets help, and it helps the host that it's mutual with. you will see this picture again, but this picture shows um, several different kinds of fungi. So remember, it's kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. Well, the kingdom is fungi, and the phylum here, so underneath the heading of fungi, we divide even further into these other things here, and you can see these for yourself. Take a look at some of the details. I will post this in some other place a little bit later. There are many uses for fungi. Lichens, we talked about when we talked about when the succession happens and primary succession takes place. The first thing that comes in are these lichens, and they can form to rocks and the sides of buildings. Um, the problem here is that they are very, very sensitive to pollution because their nutrients come from the air and the water. And so if they're present, likely you have less pollution um, or little pollution, depending on the species that you have there. And then if you don't find any lichen or very few lichen, you probably have a larger problem with pollution because they're so sensitive to the air and water pollution. Penicillin is one very common fungi used for medicine. It makes an antibiotic, and you can see. In fact, it was discovered by accident. Some scientist was just working on uh, different things, and he found the mold actually killed the bacteria, and so he discovered this penicillin, this mold, which is a fungi that actually kills off bacteria. We also have harmful fungi. Examples, some kill the American elm tree. Another kind of fungi will actually kill the chestnut tree. And then in humans, we're used to things like athlete's foot. That's this picture here. I Google image searched some athlete's foot, and I'll tell you this is a mild picture. There are some much worse cases. If you're interested, of course, you can do that. And then ringworm is another one. It's very common. People get ringworm, especially in schools when you're in close contact with other students and people. But it's shaped like a ring, hence the name ringworm, and it's caused by a fungus. And then, of course, yeast infections are also caused by fungus because remember that yeast is a fungus. So that is it for this video. You'll want to continue on to look at the other things in All Think lesson, and we will see you in class.